Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video today, we're discussing the National Visa Center and specifically recent changes with respect to how they process documentation within that agency. What am I talking about here? Well, National Visa Center, in our practice here, we deal with a lot of marriage and fiancé visa cases. Strictly speaking, in the K categories, K1 and K3, you generally don't see a lot of dealings with the National Visa Center unless you see what's called an administrative closure in a K3 case. But that being said, fiancé visas tend to sort of process through the Department of Homeland Security process only to be sent on to the National Visa Center, and the National Visa Center acts as a kind of clearinghouse to make sure that that case gets moved to the embassy or consulate where the application is to be filed. That being stated, the National Visa Center has recently changed some of its protocols with respect to the processing of immigrant visa cases. What are we talking about with respect to immigrant visas? Well, CR1 and IR1 come to mind immediately with respect to marriage to a foreign national. And we see a lot of marriages to Thai nationals over here. Also, IR2, CR2, immigrant cases with respect to stepchildren of American citizens. So what are we talking about with respect to changes in protocol? Well, recently, the National Visa Center has begun a paperless process of dealing with documentation. In the past, when dealing with NVC, you had to send in documentation pertaining to a visa application. It had to be sent in paper copy format. Generally speaking, you had to send it by either courier or U.S. mail service. This took time. It had to be reviewed, and then they'd come back and say they wanted either to see more documentation or they'd go ahead and move the case forward for processing and scheduling of the interview at the U.S. Embassy or Consulate abroad. Well, here recently, the National Visa Center has enacted protocols which allow for the uploading of digitized copies of documentation, which allows not only faster receipt by the NVC, but in my opinion, probably faster review by the National Visa Center's officers because they can just sort of immediately pull that case up and start taking a look at all the documentation contained therein. I think overall this is going to cause a general increase in the processing time of visa cases. But that being said, it should be noted that under this current administration, there has been much more scrutiny and much more emphasis placed on enforcement and review of cases involving immigrants to the United States. So for that reason, it may all just sort of come out in the wash. That being said, National Visa Center, I won't say they're more convenient to deal with, but digitized documentation tends to be a little bit sort of easier to handle than handling, huge piles of paper everywhere. That being said, we generally tend to keep a hard copy of things, and it's probably a good idea for those who are dealing with the immigrant case process to keep a hard copy of one's case in order to continue, or in order to maintain a record of one's immigration experience, for lack of a better term.